Theo một khảo sát của Deloitte vào năm 2024, 72% Gen Z xem mục tiêu phát triển bền vững và trách nhiệm xã hội của doanh nghiệp CSR là yếu tố quan trọng để lựa chọn nơi làm việc. Bên cạnh đó, 86% của Gen Z coi việc có mục đích trong công việc là yếu tố quan trọng đối với sự hài lòng. Nhiều khảo sát khác cũng đã chỉ ra rằng Gen Z có những sự khác biệt về mức độ lạc quan, sự hạnh phúc và hành vi so với các thế hệ khác. Sự khác biệt này có thể khiến những cách tiếp cận về giáo dục truyền thống không còn phù hợp với Gen Z nữa. Vậy câu hỏi đặt ra rằng, ngành giáo dục cần đối diện với những thách thức ấy như thế nào và làm sao để giúp người trẻ có thể vững vàng hơn trong thế giới đầy biến động? Trong tập podcast Pick the Right ngày hôm nay, Sơn Anh sẽ cùng vị khách mời của chúng ta là giáo sư Raymond Gordon, hiệu trưởng kiêm chủ tịch Trường Đại học Anh Quốc Việt Nam, VUV, bàn luận về chia sẻ vấn đề này.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome to all of you, and I'm looking forward to this.
We've known that you have almost 40 years of experience in the academic field, more than 25 years in global cooperation leaders, 70 plus publication in top tier journal. So can you share with us a little bit about your career as well as the evolving landscape of education?
All those years, that really makes me sound old. But what I would say is that there was a lot of overlap between those things that I've done in my life. And so while I was doing one, I was doing the other. I had quite a rewarding career as a hardware engineer and a software developer as well. But quickly, I found myself suddenly in charge of resources and people, and I really didn't know that much about that at that time. And so I went back to university and studied an MBA, a business degree. And that degree changed my life. It kind of indicated to me that while I was doing very well and knew lots of things, and that I was a little bit narrow-minded as well. Like I said, it opened up a whole new world for me, particularly when I was studying philosophy and political science and behaviour psychology. And it opened up a thirst, really, for new things, new knowledge. And I found myself pursuing some additional studies. And then through that, I began to teach part-time. By this time, I'd been working for let's say the first 20 years, 25 years. And that also then opened up the door to a PhD, a doctorate. And in particular, what I was interested in at that time, which was really about people. And so I left industry and came into academia full-time then. And it's been very, very rewarding. And I have enjoyed that very, very much. I enjoyed my previous life, I call it. In essence, it's a second life, I suppose. But it taught me many things. I found because I had business experience, pretty soon the universities were asking me to become the head of school, and then the dean, and then eventually the role of vice chancellor of British University. However, in between there, you see many universities as visiting professors throughout the world, many publications, many conferences, lots of experience, right throughout the world.
Yes. What a career it is.
Yeah, I'm being very fortunate.
Yes, and you're fortunate to be interactive with a lot of different people from different backgrounds as well.
Sure.
So there is a database, credibility database that tell us that Generation X, Generation Y, and then Generation Z is like the newest one.
Sure.
So Generation Z have a very distinguished behavior as well as their satisfaction, as well as their happiness. So do you think this is a generational shift? And what is the societal factor that are driving them?
Sure. And in fact, shifts in social groups is a large part of what my research was about in studying power. Yes. And power relation. And I clearly understand. And in fact, we've come through periods of a clash of civilization, clash of cultures, and now a clash of generations. Seems to be a lot of literature talking about that. But for me, it goes back in particular to understanding what epochs are and understanding society and the development of societies throughout history. And an epoch is a point in time where things will never be the same again. And it happens very quickly. It's not a slow change. They're like sharp shifts. Prior to that, in societies, the Gen Zs will look at their parents and their grandparents and might be thinking, God, you don't know what's going on in the world. However, you need to be aware that for us, the idea of truth, an understanding of who we are, what we are, where we fit, you know, and how we're supposed to behave was far more stable. And in fact, it was dominant narrative that told us, this is what you are, this is what you do. Yeah. And of course, that's the only knowledge we have. But the moment that was stable, because there was no internet, and then when along comes the internet, then suddenly we have the opportunity and the challenge of being bombarded by lots of different narratives about who we are, what we are, and more to the point, in that time, it was about what we should be. Mm. And for many, it was difficult, particularly those from my generation, who had a stable society and idea about things. And then suddenly, almost overnight, it's all disintegrating. And in fact, many people lost their jobs, they lost their careers because it became superseded by technology and other ways. And of course, by the way, folks, we're about to move into another epoch. We're in it now, beginning because of AI. You know, and we may well see those things happen again. It's not a matter of whether it's right or wrong. It just is. And so we need to find the best way that we can deal with it. What's most important, and what I applaud from the younger generation today, is that what they're in the search for, who they are and what they are, they've come back to purpose. Yes. And so having a purpose in life is very important. They want to make a difference. They're looking for a purpose because it's no longer about what we should be, which is what, if you like, the doctrine when I was young. It's about what we might become. It means we don't really know. So instead of being told how we should be, we need to discover. And that's right at the heart for me of Gen Zs, and I applaud that.
So you have mentioned the changing world drastically on moving. So we're now going to talk a bit specific in the education field.
Sure.
Yeah. So you, as a distinguished Vice Chancellor and President of BUV, how do you see the evolutions of the education in the world in general and specifically in Vietnam throughout the years?
So along with society, it doesn't matter what discipline you're in, whether you're in education, or you're in medicine, or you're in business, or you're in philosophy, you will see these changes in society influence how research is done and how we construct knowledge about what we can do, what we might do, what should be done, or what we might become. And so that means that education very much needs to be shifting with it. And so we've seen education going through some very quick changes and shifts. And now with the idea coming back to what might we become is the need for discovery. Yes. And so discovery-based pedagogies is what I like to refer to it as, is very important. Yes. Now, that if we think about it, when a young person leaves university today and they go out into a world where things are changing and they're going into another epoch because of AI, we don't know where things are going to land. Mm-hmm. You need your disciplines. Yes, absolutely, the fundamentals and education, but then you need a bit more than that as well, because what you will need to do is work with others in order, and that means collaboration, in order to try and discover solutions to any challenges that we might face in the future and to take advantage of opportunities. Sure. Which means rather than being disciplined into a particular body of knowledge, this is what's true, this is what is. It's more about, particularly when it's in our pedagogy here at BUV, the teachers are taught and practice bringing the students together. Yes. So that they're sitting, they're working together, and they apply that disciplined knowledge to situations, whether they be opportunistic or problematic. And then the teachers are more concerned now about what happens between them. Yes. When they're there. and how that process of coming together will lead to new knowledge, discovery. So you facilitate that. Lots of things, you've probably heard of these things, ideation and so forth. All of those processes now are designed to facilitate collaboration, and through collaboration, innovation, to try and discover new ways of thinking about solutions and problems. And now, if we think logically, when students move out into a world where they become workers or entrepreneurs, and they're taking advantages and working within the context in which they're functioning, that's what they're going to need. You know, they can be the best at recurring knowledge in the world, but it won't help them if they can't actually collaborate with other people to discover ways of looking at things for new solutions.
Yes. So you have given us the solution. So in your opinion, what do you think is the most effective learning method?
Learning psychology has told us that people learn in different ways.
Yes.
And fundamentally, we need to be aware of that. And we need to help, and we need to have systems in place to be able to cater to all different ways of learning.
Yes.
Now, that is difficult to do. So we need to have support services for some people who might learn visually, others learn through listening, others learn through doing. Now, what we do is we embed all of those things into the student experience and the learning process. However, I still come back, for me, the most important thing is now how do we facilitate that work environment or the world in which they're going to move into within the learning facilities. Yes. And if you walk around BUV, you will see, for instance, that a lot of our classrooms have round tables. That's because we're interested in what happens between them. The other thing about it, it needs to be open and alive and colour to actually stimulate learning. And all that is embedded into the design of our campus. And you'll see lots of interesting little learning spaces outside of the classroom, because it doesn't stop there.
It doesn't.
It's sure.
Yeah. So can you call that method the impact-based,
sure,
the purpose-based impact learning?
Purpose-based impact learning, we call it PIL.
PIL.
PIL is important because we're responding to the Gen Zs.
Yes.
And we're talking about purpose. We're not telling them this is the purpose.
Yeah.
We want you to tell us what your purpose is and collaborate. And there are some very broader social problematics and opportunities that many of our students are interested in making a contribution to. They're the big questions, if you like. So, for instance, food, water in the future, sustainability, ecology, looking after the planet. But there's others like aged care, NGOs and stuff that are all a part of that. Purpose-based impact learning also amplifies the learning process because the student's heart comes into it. You know, they're really focused on how do I actually not just learn, how do I learn something that I value, and then how do I learn to give it impact so it can make a contribution, and then I can be actually proud of what I'm doing. I feel the value inside of me about what I'm doing. Yes. That's why we've introduced purpose-based impact learning.
Yes. So we have seen the drastic change, not in the education field of the world, but in Vietnam also. But recently, for over 4 to 5 years recently, we have seen that a lot of institutions focusing on training people to become leaders. But VUV distinguish yourself from other institutions because you're focusing on training people to be trailblazer. So do you want to specifically talk about the term?
What we see there is that it's indicative of the epoch or where we find ourselves at the moment. Whenever we're in trouble, we cry out, "Where's my leader?" And so we do see that when we have contextual, let's say radical contextual environments in which we feel a bit lost, that we look for someone to be our leader. Yes. In order to be a trailblazer and to be a meaningful trailblazer, that has purpose and impact, you also need to be leadership savvy. You know? Now, coming back to the word trailblazer, the word trailblazer in English is a little bit problematic because it kind of says someone who goes forward, but maybe knocks a few people over on the way. Oh. We don't do that. Okay. You know, and I know that the Vietnamese word translates differently. Okay. It's very important that we recognise in our mission statement that we're also developing graduates who are capable of working together to create new knowledge, to make, to impact their purpose. That's what we mean by a trailblazer, someone who's not necessarily, with respect, not necessarily going to simply accept the way things are. They will actually do what they think is right when through collaboration with others. We also teach them to be respectful, not to be arrogant, you know, which I'm sorry, young people, it's a little bit of a problem. I was young once too. And sometimes we want to change the world quickly without recognising that we need to also listen to people with great experience and our people who can help us. We're not necessarily focusing on leadership, but we are focusing on people moving forward to be able to deal with the contexts in which they're living, but we also teach them to be caring. We want them to care for their people and the environment as well. In other words, to be a good citizen. And you will need to be leadership savvy. And in fact, leadership is a large part of many of our courses.
So all of that, can you do a short mantra or motto or like a saying of BUV to do all of this?
Sure.
Yes.
Be a Lionhearted.
Oh, okay. So is that a tagline of VUV?
It is actually. Yes, it's our. We thought long and hard about the types of graduates that we are producing. Our mission, everything that we do, is driven by our mission. In other words, that's what we do here. And really, our mission is about creating particular types of graduates. You used the word before, trailblazer. We have come to the collaborative agreement with the students and with the academics and other stakeholders that really what we're doing is creating Lionhearts. So the tagline of Home of the Lionheart. So how do students react to that? Actually, they love it.
They love it.
Yeah, well, that's the feedback that we're getting. And I think they understand it because they feel it when they're in the classroom. That's what we're trying to produce, a great person who cares about people, who in a way lead together and collaborate in order to come to solutions and to produce new knowledge, if you like, about how to go forward. That's a Lionheart. So is there any inspiring Lionheart story you want to share? Well, first of all, let me say that Lionheart also comes back to the British. You know, the British Lions, if you like, is on the crest of arms for the UK, very much been embedded in its history. And so that's where it's come from also. Very much what we're doing reflects, you know, the culture of the UK, the learning environments. It's an authentic British learning environment. And we want to do more of that symbolically. And so that's where the idea of Lionhearts comes. And we've got many, many stories of great alumni, things that they're doing, but also our students. What we're here for is Vietnam, not just BUV. And our students are out there now being Lionhearts, bringing everybody into the university from other universities as well. We want to make a contribution. So I've heard that there is a program called Personal and Social Growth. As well as many extracurricular activities in your school. So is there any specific one of BUV that relates to sustainability as well as environmental problem? Here at BUV, the students study their curriculum, you know, their formal curriculum, but then they all study personal and social growth. The important thing that we're trying to do there is not any one discipline, a person studying business, a person studying creative practices or computer science or hospitality won't necessarily acquire all of the exposure to what we see as the type of person the type of graduate we're trying to produce, the one that fits our mission statement.
Yes.
So within the personal and social growth programs, it's almost like doing 2 degrees. They will learn things, like I said before, about ethics, about international etiquette, caring, sociology, organizations, how to behave inside of an organization, how to understand work life, how to maintain your voice and not lose it inside of a work environment. EQ, you know, lots of many things are all designed so that we can assure that the person that graduates from BUV has their discipline, but is the person we said they would be. And by the way, we also use what we call assurance of learning to measure that.
All right.
So every graduate, we are measuring the extent to which they've achieved the learning outcomes that fit our mission statement.
Whoa.
And then, so the personal and social growth program is embedded in there. How we assess that tells us whether the person who graduate is actually who we say they are.
Yes.
And it's very, very important. But it's all about, and in fact, it's, you know, purpose-based impact learning is a large part of the personal and social growth program as well. What we want parents, we want students in the first instance, but we also want employees, and we want the student themselves to feel happy with what they've achieved at BUV. So that's why we're measuring it. We're constantly then go back and make changes for improvement to make it better and better and better. But not just that too. Now we move beyond. When the student graduates, we now have a program to continue working with them so that they can develop for the next job that they're after, or the next opportunity, or to contribute to society through the other outreach programs that the university engages with now and will engage with in the future.
Yeah, I can see the detail and effectiveness of that method of studying. And I've also heard that BUV recently received a very prestigious certification.
Yes,
can you elaborate on it?
Yes, I'm very proud of it actually. I suppose it's in it's synonymous with the word trailblazing, all right? But not just that, you know, we were the first university to get QS 5-star rating. We were also the first and only university still to achieve the British QAA Quality Assurance certification. And now, true to our goal, we have now received the EDGE Award for Sustainability in our campus from the World Bank. And we made a promise that we were heading in that direction, and we were going to do that, and we have, and we will continue to further improve all of those. We're very proud of that.
Very proud of that.
Wonderful, yeah.
Yes, and we have talked about sustainability, environment, and there's also one problem I want to mention is social and gender mobility.
Yes.
Have been focusing on for many years. So how do BUV seize that problem?
Yeah, certainly. We are a private university, but we were founded as a joint project of bilateral relations between the UK and Vietnam. And so part of our charter is to actually address the needs of the bilateral relations. Really, we're not here for anything other than Vietnam. And that's why it's in our motto, BUV, here for Vietnam. One of the key economic indicators that I know the government, Vietnamese government, is focusing on, and the education system is where the key contribution to this can occur in any country or in any nation. And that is social mobility. Now, for those who don't know, social mobility means the ability for a person from a lower socio group being able to, through education, be able to rise to another level and another level. And I do know your government, giving them absolute credit, and the Ministry for Education Training doing wonderful things, is focused on this. And it is one of our key key agendas as well. And in fact, it underpins our scholarship system.
Oh.
Okay, so our scholarships we have for top education or achievers, academic achievers. But then we also have a whole range of scholarships that is opening the door to people with great achievements in their life, academic and other social achievements, from lower socioeconomic classes to gain access to British education, and in fact probably a life that they only dreamt of.
It is.
And so that underpins our entire scholarship program. Yeah, we have gender mobility scholarships as well. For instance, at the moment, we notice that we do not have a large female group of students in computer science and the other engineering areas that we've got. And now we have scholarships to encourage female students to come in. And some of our best graduates, by the way, outstanding graduates in those fields have been women.
Yeah. So BUV is aiming to become the leading university in Southeast Asia. So what do you think are the next 5 years of BUV? What are the goals? What are you aiming for?
Sure. Our vision is to be recognised within the next 10 years to be in the top 100 universities in Asia through QS rankings or whatever the ranking system will be at that particular time. However, for the next 5 years, what we see is we've been working to a business model that has enabled us to grow from 300 students in 2018 to nearly 3,000 students now in 2024. And we are about to open up phase 2 of our campus.
Phase 2.
Yeah, which means virtually overnight, we will see our student capacity double. And it is a beautiful, beautiful building. And when you see inside and it's designed for education, it's a wonderful opportunity for Vietnamese students to be and be a part of and to experience that campus. And our alumni too, by the way. So what that means is we really need to focus on growth.
Yes.
And but not just growth in Hanoi. You know, we will look at methods now in order to bring more international students. We have students now coming to us from all over the world. Yes. But what we'd like to do is accelerate that so that we have a greater diversity in our student body. So that's one particular area we'll be focusing on. We'll be looking at building a lot more accommodation services, and we already have them. And we're just about to break ground on another building for accommodation so that we can encourage and have a facility where students from other parts of Vietnam, which is probably the main focus actually, can make their way here and have accommodation that they are happy with. And obviously it's the Eco Park, which also goes along with sustainability in our EDGE award. And we work very closely with the Eco Park and we give them praise too for being a part of our mission. In other words, sustainable business. We've made this large investment. And we need to use business models which will enable us to be sustainable. And so it means focus, it means expansion, but it also means positioning carefully, and it also means creating great outcomes for our students.
Yes. What I gather from the conversation with you is that you talk about BUV with great pride. Sure. I can see the passion in your eyes. Sure. So over 4 decades of working in this industry, what is the position or a project or a role that you are most satisfied about?
Well, there's been many.
Yes.
There has. And a great experience as well. But I'd probably say when I was approached for this role, I looked at my CV and thought my entire experience has been for this role, becoming the Vice Chancellor and President of BUV. And I have to say it's been a wonderful achievement. It is a fantastic institution in a wonderful country that I and my family have fallen in love with. By far. What's been achieved at BUV, and by the way, it's not just me. You know, it's my the team here at VUV. It's the teachers, it's the support staff, operations staff, all working towards and collaborating towards satisfying our students and our parents, and we will continue to do so. And really, I have been synonymous with turnaround roles in business and in academia.
Yes.
And this one's been very rewarding.
This one.
And this one.
Yes. Thank you very much for your conversation today with us. Và qua những chia sẻ vừa rồi của giáo sư Raymond Gordon, có thể thấy giáo dục bền vững cũng như phương pháp học tập tạo ảnh hưởng thực tiễn hứa hẹn sẽ là câu trả lời cho những băn khoăn về việc giáo dục sẽ trang bị cho thế hệ trẻ, những người mang trái tim bản lĩnh, làm thế nào để thành công trong tương lai và để lại dấu ấn cho xã hội. Một lần nữa, Sơn Anh xin được chân thành cảm ơn giáo sư Raymond Gordon cùng Trường Đại học Anh Quốc Việt Nam British University Việt Nam đã đồng hành cùng Z trong podcast Pick the Right ngày hôm nay. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại trong những số podcast tiếp theo.
Thank you.
Thank you.